All right, in this video, we're going to talk about using the quadratic formula. So what's really great about the quadratic formula is it can be used to solve any quadratic equation, and I emphasize here any quadratic equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Okay, and I'm just going to make a quick note right here that this is what we call standard form. All right, all the terms are on the same side of the equation, and the equation is set equal to 0. So if you need to take a second to write this down, go ahead and hit the pause key. And when you're ready, we're going to write down the quadratic formula. All right, so when we write the quadratic formula, what we're doing is we're solving for x. So we put x equals. And we use the coefficients. We don't plug x's into it. We use the coefficient in front of the x squared term. We use the coefficient in front of the x term, which is called the b, and we use the constant, which is referred to as the c. And this is what it looks like. We take the opposite of the b term, okay? It looks like negative b, but I say it opposite of b, plus or minus the square root. All right, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times the a term and times the c term, all divided by 2 times the a value. Okay? So this is the quadratic formula, and the best thing to do is just to really try to memorize this, because the more that it's memorized and you can kind of say it in your head, the easier that it is to use it. So let's go ahead and come down here, and we're going to work through our first example. Example 1. All right, so let's solve x times x minus 6 is equal to negative 4. All right, so the first thing that I need to do when I use the quadratic formula is I need to write the equation in standard form. A lot of times the equation might already be written in standard form, but if it's not, then we're just going to go ahead and perform these algebra steps. I'm going to begin by distributing the x, and this is going to be x squared minus 6x equals negative 4. And then what I need to do is I need to add the 4 to both sides, and this is the resulting equation. Okay, it's going to be x squared minus 6x plus 4 is equal to 0. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to identify the a, the b, and the c. The a term in this situation, since I don't see a number in front of x squared, we always assume that it's 1. So the a value is 1. The b value, okay, is going to be this right here, this negative 6. So here's the a value highlighted. The b value is negative 6, and the c value is going to be 4. Okay? So I'm just using the coefficients. I don't include the x's in the formula. The other thing that I'm going to do, the other piece that we need in the formula is we need to know what b squared is. So I'm going to take a second here to write that b squared is going to be negative 6 squared, which is 36, right? So what we're doing is we're taking the negative 6 and we're squaring it, and I'm going to already kind of know. That'll make it easier once we're into the equation. So I want you to identify the a value, the b value, the c value, and I want you to even identify this b squared. So if we know what b is, we can come down here. All right, so the next step that we're going to do is we're going to plug it into the formula. We're going to write x equals. And the quadratic formula, again, looks, and you can look up it towards the top of your paper, and it says it's the opposite of b. So the opposite of negative 6 would be positive 6, plus or minus the square root. Okay? Inside the square root, we have this b squared term, and I already know that the b squared is 36, minus 4 times the a value times the c value. Okay? And I plug all this in, and then we divide by 2 times 1. So for the third step, what I want you to do is I want you to, let me put this, plug your a, b, and your c, okay, plug into the quadratic formula. I don't want you really doing any simplifying yet. I just want you to plug everything in. Now, the next thing that I want you to do is I want you to calculate, I'm going to highlight it right here, I want you to calculate this part right here that's underneath the radical. This is what we're going to get our calculators and we're going to calculate. So it's going to look like this. X equals, it's going to say 6 plus or minus the square root of some number divided by 2. Well, this is where I'm going to go into my calculator, all right? And I'm going to type in the calculator exactly the way that it's written. And I'm going to type in 36 minus 4 times the a value, and I even put parentheses in for my multiplication. And the number that I get under that radical right there is 20. Notice I'm not taking the square root of 20. I just want to calculate the number under the radical. Okay? So that's what I'm going to do right here is I want you to calculate the part under the radical. All right. So then finally what we're going to do is we're going to simplify. And if the square root of 20 didn't simplify, then we would be finished. But it does simplify. So let's come over here and let's think about breaking this down. What perfect square goes into 20? And so we can split it into the square root of 4 and the square root of 5. Well, the square root of 4 is a perfect square, so we can make this equal number 2. So what we get here is 6 plus or minus the square root of 20 simplifies into 2 square root of 5 all over 2. And then finally, because we can take 6 divided by 2, and we can also take 2 divided by 2, I'm going to divide both the 6 divided by 2 and the 2 divided by 2. And it kind of looks like a heart right here, right? I always kind of say we're going to give both numbers love. We just need to make sure that we divide them both by 2. And here's our final answer. X equals 6 divided by 2 is 3, plus or minus 2 divided by 2 is 1, and really it's optional whether or not you want to put the 1 in front. A lot of times you won't see the 1 in front, okay? But that is how it's going to work, and this would be our final exact answer, okay? The approximate answer is going to be the decimals, but giving your answer in terms of a radical is the exact answer. And again, what we're doing when we solve a parabola, we are calculating the roots. We are figuring out the x-intercepts. It's the roots, it's the x-intercepts that we're finding when we solve a parabola. And that's why we get 2 different values of x. All right, let's take a look at another example. And let's suppose that we have, all right, 2x squared plus 11x plus 14 is equal to 0. All right, so we're already in standard form. We don't need to simplify there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to identify the a value. Now the a value is the number in front of x squared. The b value is the number in front of x, and the c value is this constant. So a is going to be 2. The b value is equal to 11, and the c value is equal to 14. All right, so the second thing I do is I just plug it into the quadratic formula, the a, b, and the c. Okay, it's going to look like this. It starts with saying opposite of b. So the opposite of b is going to be negative 11 plus or minus the 6 square root. Now, again, I kind of talked about this before. Now I need to do the b squared. What is the b squared going to be? If b is 11, then b squared is going to be 11 squared, which is 121. And I'm going to write right here 121 minus 4 times the a value times the c value. Okay? All divided by 2 times the a value. And that's where I plugged in a 2 right here for the a. So in the first step, just plug in the a, the b, and the c. Again, this right here is the 11 squared when I did the b squared. Okay? And again, this right here is the a value. I plugged it in for 2. All right, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my calculator, and I'm going to calculate what's underneath that radical. So x equals negative 11 plus or minus the square root of some number divided by 4. And when I get my calculator, I'm going to type this in. Let's see here, sorry about that. All right, so let's type in this time 121 minus 4 times the A times the C. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter, and we're going to get 9. And that's what we're going to write underneath the radical is 9. Now, when I go to simplify, what I notice here is that 9 is a perfect square, and that is equal to 3. So let's come down here and let's keep going. X equals negative 11 plus or minus 3 divided by 4. Since I have two whole numbers, I can actually split this and we can keep simplifying. See, I couldn't do that up here because I had a radical and I was finished. Okay, if you look at my answer right here, because of the square root of 5, we can't add it to the 3. But these are both whole numbers and we can continue simplifying. Negative 11 plus 3 is the first solution. Okay, negative 11 plus 3 divided by 4. And we also get negative 11 minus 3 divided by 4. So I'm going to split that plus or minus. And I'm going to keep going. Well, negative 11 plus 3, okay, if you want to punch that in or do it mentally, is negative 8, and we divide by 4. So the first solution for x is that it's negative 2. And then over here, I take negative 11 minus 3 and get negative 14 divided by 4. So my second solution for x, now the only thing is I notice that I can simplify. Let's divide both of those by 2, and the result is going to be negative 7 over 2, and that is the second solution for x. Okay? So that right there is the quadratic formula, which of course we just need a little bit more practice with it. But that's what we're learning. All right, thanks for listening. Bye.